Encik Muhammad Nazir bin Rabun and Puan Noorayuni Rusli. Today, my friend and I would like to present our research titled Factors Influencing Consumer Awareness in Reducing Single-Use Plastic Bag Consumption. Our research has been supervised by Encik Muhammad Syahmizan bin Azmi. First of all, my name is Akmal Bin Abdullah.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nabilatun Nisa binti Aziz. As for the background of this study, we as the researcher are mainly focused on the factors influencing consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption at Tesco Mergong Al-Star Kedah. This is because of the society tend to use the plastic since it gives the convenience for the buyer to carry goods when they are making purchase at the hypermarket. This behavior is major contribution of increasing consumption of plastic bag, which will lead to the environmental burden that rise up from the lack of awareness from the consumer. According to Jamberg et al. 2015 stated that Malaysia was included in the countries that are accountable for over half of the world's predictable 8 million tons of plastic wastage cast out into the seas every year. The number of these plastic bags are very distressing that require every party to play their roles as to practice the sustainable development goals that has been set up by the United Nations General Assembly UNGA, specifically goals number 3 to promote good health and well-being of the society in order to reduce the amount of fatality and disease that may caused by plastic consumptions which contains dangerous chemicals. Therefore, the researchers try to identify the factors that contribute towards the consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption at Tesco Mergong Al-Star Kedah. The problem statement is where we as the researcher aims to study the factors that influencing consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. As we know, plastic has usually been used to carry goods when purchasing goods in this country. Besides that, plastic is cheap, light, and besides being used for the multi-purpose functions. However, according to the report published by WWF Worldwide Fund for Nature, about 80% of plastic in the oceans came from the land, with an average of plastic entering the oceans about 8 million tons of plastic annually. And unfortunately, Malaysia is one of the highest ranking of the plastic consumption with an average of 16.8 kilogram of plastic annually among other 6 ASEAN countries, which is China, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, based on the reliable report by WWF itself in 2016. So, based on the report, number of consumers that consume the plastic for the multi-purpose reason on daily basis is higher. But why people keep on using this single-use plastic bag, even though the society knows plastic could contribute to the environmental pollutions? This is because people use the plastic almost for everything, such as beverages, foods, detergent, cleaning agents, or personal care and others. Consumers also tend to ignore the knowledge process of plastic production through its use the chemical mix. According to the report by WWF, Malaysia has total estimated annual household packaging consumption about 523,000 tons. Next, why we choose the Tesco? This is because Tesco hypermarket, or the latest known as the Lotus store, are among the biggest hypermarket, and the locations of Tesco Mergong Al-Star Kedah were surrounded by residential area, which this supermarket will be the attractions for the consumer to buy the groceries. Besides that, Tesco has launched a campaign of unforgettable bag to reduce the consumption of single-use plastic bag among the consumer, and giving the discount to the customer who reuse the bag through the scheme launched based on bags barcodes. Lastly, the choice of Al-Star as the scope of study is because the researchers managed to have an evidence on the total net collections of mixed plastic by Green Resource Recovery Sdn Bhd per day was above 100 kg, and this evidence were revealed This evidence revealed that the plastic waste by consumer in Ulster was in the high range of plastic usage, as the evidence being stated at the Appendix J. The research question for this study is, what is the level of consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption? Secondly, what is the relationship between consumer habit and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption? Third, what is the relation between government program and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption? Fourth, what is the relationship between environmental education and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption? Lastly, what is the most influential factor that affects the consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption? Next, our research objective is to identify the level of consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. Secondly, to determine the relationship between consumer habit and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. Third, to determine the relationship between government program and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. Fourth, to determine the relationship between environmental education and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. Lastly, to identify the most influential factor that affects the consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. Next, as you can take a look at our conceptual framework, the independent variables are mainly focused on the factors that influence consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag, while the dependent variable is the consumer awareness itself. Consumer awareness, according to Consumer Awareness, Consumer Rights and Responsibility 2019, consumer awareness is a manifestation of granting the shopper knows about the information of the items, product, administrations, and consumer rights. Consumer awareness is a show of granting the customer things about the information of things, items, organizations, and client rights. Next, the first independent variables are consumer habit. According to Holman et al. 2019, habit refers to the discovered act that are automatically delivered in response to a contextual signal that have been correlated with their outcomes. In order to improve the environmental situation, plastic bag will be charged 20 cents to the consumer as the functional approach, which can be effective in fostering a habit change. The second independent variables are government program. Generally, a government program is the activities or particular measure performed by the government to the country and its citizens to achieve some aims. In order to improve the environmental situation in this country, Malaysian government had introduced the countrywide ban on plastic within a year through No Plastic Bag Day program, but only on Saturdays in 2011. This is to discourage the consumption of plastic bag among the consumer shopping in the supermarket. Lastly, the independent variables for this research is environmental education. According to Chairman et al. 2018, the term of environmental education was established by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources in Nevada, United States of America, as an effort to create environmental literature citizens from 1970.
Thank you, Nabilatun Nisa, for your presentation. For the next outline, I am going to present about hypothesis of independent variable. For all of the independent variable, which are consumer habit, government program, and environmental education, were significant relationship towards the consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. Next, I will move to the research method. So basically, methodology method covers detail about research design, sample size, and so on. For our research design, we use quantitative method because it is focused on primary data that gathered from the respondent by using questionnaire that involve the consumer at Tesco Magong Alustar Kedah. Then, cross-sectional survey, or known as one shoot study, has been used for the collection of the data at a particular time to answer all the questions. Next, the unit or level of analysis in this study are focusing for individual only, which we only refer to the consumer in Tesco. The sample size for this study only 60 respondents, which corresponding the rule of thumb by Roscoe 1975 that proposed the sample size between 30 until 500 respondents due to the hard of data collection during COVID-19 pandemic. Then, move to the sampling technique. In this study, we use snowball sampling to prevent researcher and also the respondent from COVID-19 disease by giving the questionnaire through the WhatsApp to the citizen Alostar, and they will spreading the questionnaire to others. In this study, the measurement used for the IB and DB is Likert scale, such as strongly disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. But for demography, we use nominal scale. So the data from the study we analyze by using descriptive analysis, Pearson correlation, and multiple regression. Next, data collection that we gather from the distribution of questionnaire comprised with section A, B, C, and D. Section A is a demographic profile, section B consumer awareness, section C consumer habit, section D government program, and the last one is section E, which is environmental education. So next, this is the finding for our study, which is demographic profile. Gender for the female is more than male because female 68.3% while the male is 31.7%. For the age, the most age are from the range of 21 until 30 years old, which is 46 respondents, and the least age range around below 20 years old, which is Mount 1. So moving on the races, the most respondents are Malay, which is 51, while the Chinese and Indian is 6 and 3 respectively. For the profession, 29 respondents are students and the employed 17, unemployed 6, and last self-employed are 8 respondents. Last, for the most status of the respondent is married. Now, this is our hypothesis since we have 5 research objectives. For the first objective is to identify the level of consumer awareness in reducing the single-use plastic bag consumption is by using the descriptive analysis, and the mean result is for DB1 is 4.45, DB2 is 4.25, DB3 3.73, and last one DB4 is 3.77. For the objective 2, 3, and 4, we use Pearson correlation. For the objective 2 was to determine the relationship between consumer habit and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. The result is P equal to 0.0, R equal to 0.722, and the decision for this objective is H1 are accepted. For the objective 3 was to determine the relationship between government program and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. For the result is P equal to 0.0, R equal to 0.719, and the decision for this objective is H1 are accepted. For the objective 4 was to determine the relationship between environmental education and consumer awareness in reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. For the result is P equal to 0.0 and R equal to 0.616, and the decision for this objective is H1 are accepted. Last, for the objective 5, we use multiple regression, and the result is the most beta value is 0.419, and p value is p equal to 0.0. So the most influential factor is the consumer habit. For the first limitation is limitation regarding data collection. Researcher cannot distribute face-to-face the questionnaire form to the consumer at Tesco Magong Alostar due to COVID-19 outbreak. Next is cannot be generalized wider extent. Our researcher has been made confidential for the purpose of study only and not to be published. For the recommendation, first is change the method of data collection. To get the actual data without any proxy issue, the researcher need to do the face-to-face interview at Tesco Magong Alostar Kedah. Next recommendation is enhance the scope of study. To get the actual factor influencing consumer awareness in reducing the single-use plastic bag consumption, researcher need to enlarge the scope of study to another hypermarket located in another state in Malaysia. At the end, we as the researcher can conclude that this research show the significant relation between the 3 variables which are consumer habit, government program, and environmental education on the factor that influencing consumer awareness and reducing single-use plastic bag consumption. The government should enforce many programs regarding the single-use plastic bag consumption. In hand, the study can benefit for further studies to be implemented in other fields of area. That's all from us. Thank you.